Welcome to the GTN Show. This week, Fraser and myself are going to be trying our hand at a recent Guinness World Record, but with a slight difference. And we're also going to be talking about running, or rather, tumbling down a very steep hill for cheese.
Yeah, but we'll explain about those in, well, a little bit of time. But first, we're going to discuss, well, some of these problems about this really good sport of ours that is triathlon. Now then, we do often talk about all the good aspects of our sport of triathlon, but perhaps we have, by our own admission, a tendency to gloss over all of the bits that maybe aren't so good. And, well, when we start thinking about it, the problems with the sport...
Hang on, Fraser. I get the impression you want to vent a bit here.
I do a little bit, Mark, because, well, there's just a whole list of, in fact, I've made a list of different things that aren't very good about the sport. And the first up is, well, is the time that it takes.
So what about the time?
Well, think about it, Mark. We've got 3 different sports. We've got to swim, bike, and run. There's the whole social aspect, how that impinges on our family life, and then, of course, things like having a job.
Yeah, okay, I hear you here, because actually this is something I'm struggling with a bit, actually. Obviously, I'm not training like a pro, but even the handful of hours of training that I do per week, it's really quite hard to fit that in, or in and around all these things that you just said.
And let's not forget about aspects of the daily grind of fitting in early morning or then late at night after work. It can just become really quite a relentless thing that's like hanging around our neck.
Yeah, and you certainly got to have a very understanding partner or family to go with that. Okay, that's a very good first point. What's your next?
Well, actually, bear with me here and don't laugh at me, because another aspect of the sport that's perhaps a problem is it's actually too damn good, the sport of triathlon, isn't it?
Yeah, so how's that an issue?
Well, when you think about it, it can start getting to the point where we obsess about everything, about the details of training sessions, when we can fit them in. We all become a little bit, well, dare I say, obsessed by it, don't we?
Yeah, okay, another very good point. I know a lot of these people, and myself included at some point. Definitely, obviously it was my livelihood, it's my living, but I let triathlon destroy relationships, my happiness, my social life. It definitely is like, it's trying to find that balance point with sport and life, right?
Yeah, and I'm not going to disagree with you, Mark. And as much as I would recommend triathlon to anybody without hesitation of doubt, absolutely, I couldn't agree with you more there, that it is finding that ability to marry anything else you've got going on in life, whether that be work or family or social or all of those things, with the training that you think you need to get done. It is just balance, isn't it?
Okay, Fraser, I feel like you're just getting started here. What's your next one?
Well, another aspect of the sport that can be a little bit of a problem is it actually can get addictive to, well, on a serious note, to the point of you do read stories from time to time, and it is in the minority, thankfully, where people are actually abusing the sport, and we can read stories about drugs and problems of that coming into the sport, especially on an age group level, unfortunately. And on that note, we did actually read a story just this past week about just such a thing, creeping over perhaps from the world of cycling and perhaps coming into triathlon too.
Okay, I feel like there's more still. What have we got?
Well, it's the cost of triathlon, isn't it just a really expensive sport at times?
It is. I mean, you go out and you buy all your equipment, that's expensive as it is, and then you've got to enter the events.
And then let's not carry on and think about the locations where all these races are. You know, that brings me to my final point, which is the travel that you have to do if you want to go and do races in far, flung parts of the world or just further away from where you live. It's just costs that really rack up. And no matter how good your forward planning is with trying to get the cheapest flights, unfortunately, it can just really be an inhibiting factor, can't it?
It can, and that also, I guess, ties us back to the time, because it's time on the road, traveling to that event. For a lot of people, that might mean having to take holiday from work to be able to go to that event and allow time travel side either side, time away from your family, your friends. Yeah, it really does add up. And not also forgetting the environmental factor of actually having to travel, unless, of course, you're managing to cycle to your event, then well done.
Yeah, so I think what we've pointed out here is that there is actually just quite a lot of things that can be a problem with triathlons. So that brings us on to our poll, doesn't it?
Yeah, so we want to hear from you guys. What do you think is the problem with triathlon? Is it time? Is it too addictive? Is it the safety or danger aspect? Is it the cost or travel? And finally, nothing. I love triathlon. So please do enter that poll by clicking just above Fraser's head up there. Now, for last week's poll, we asked you what makes a triathlete. And in last place, it was Other with 4%.
Yeah, which is quite interesting actually, because I wasn't here last week when Heather and Mark did that one, so I was quite intrigued by what people's reactions were. So we've got next up, which is you've got to do all 3 sports, but you haven't raced, and that was in at 8%, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then Once Did a Triathlon came in at 17%, which is actually the one I chose. And then Only If You Race Regularly, 27%.
Yeah, and then finishing it all off with was anyone that swims, cycles, or runs at winning 42%.
Which goes to show that you guys are very nice. Just want everyone in that triathlon family.
Yeah. Now then, to kick off our Tri News on a happy note. After a fairly busy early season, winning the Cairns International Triathlon, and then going down to his native Australia and breaking the course record at Ironman Australia, I'm sure Cam Wurf would be the first to tell us that he's gone on to top all of those achievements, because just this past week, he tied the knot and got married to Fallon, his long-term girlfriend. So, big congratulations from us here at GTN to you two.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, next bit of news. I think you're going to like this one, Fraser. Now, I know you have some funny traditions up in Scotland. Now, we've got some funny stuff down here as well, because we have a cheese rolling race in Gloucester. Now, this takes place on a hill called Cooper's Hill. It's a 1 in 2 gradient. Now, think about that for a second, all right? So every year, unofficially now, because actually this event was cancelled back in 2009. Well, 2010 was the year it was cancelled, and just because it just got so ridiculous, so many injuries and too many people were turning up for it. But essentially, they throw a wheel of cheese off the top of the hill, and everyone legs it and tries to beat that cheese to the bottom, either trying to catch it or beat it, or at least beat everyone else. Now, if you've watched any of the footage from this event, it is mental.
I mean, Mark showed me some of this just before we started filming. I mean, I actually couldn't believe what I was watching. It is beyond mental what these people are throwing themselves down this crazy steep grassy slope.
I know I said it was a bit of a running race. I'm not sure you call it running, really. They're tumbling, they're bouncing off their heads, they're breaking ankles and all sorts. Incredible. Anyway, it took place this last weekend, and actually it was Max McDougall that won the first round and was crowned the new champion. But yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say go sign up, but maybe just go check it out.
Yeah, maybe watch. There was loads of spectators, wasn't there? Yeah. Right, as much as that was fun and interesting to hear about, Mark, I think we should bring it back to talk about some normal running, because we did actually have a really big festival running at the weekend in London with a Vitality 10K event this past weekend. But the day before that, there was actually the Westminster Mile too, now wasn't there, Mark?
There was. Now, Steph Twell, who is a very accomplished runner herself, who actually went on to win the 10K the following day, took part in the mile the day before, but with her partner, Joe Morwood, but with a slight difference, because they decided to go after a Guinness World Record of holding hands for that mile. And they did it in 4 minutes 50 and broke that record. Now, Fraser, this has given me a little idea.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, we were pretty pants that one, Fraser.
Yeah, I definitely think we need some practice if we think we can go that fast.
Yeah, well, talking of pairs, as they did in this race, O to low, swim run. Obviously, you have to do these in pairs as well. They have now branched over to the US.
Yeah, and we've both done our fair share of swim runs over the years. Brutal events, if you ask me. But Heather and I talked about this in the show a few weeks ago, and it's really exciting to see that this event, which was penciled in to maybe happen, is definitely been locked in for early March, end of February on Catalina Island, 25 miles or so west of LA, which is the first Otolo race outside of Europe, isn't it?
It is, yeah, and entries are opening in July.
So you've got 3 different distances available, isn't there? There's a very short experience, which is about 7 Ks of swim run total. Then there's a sprint version, which is about 15 Ks. And then
the full on, which is 40 odd Ks, and that's part of the World Series. So they're all fantastic events, as Fraser and myself can vouch for. They are really brutal, but really good fun. So yeah, do check it out, and if you want, get signed up in July. Well, now time to take a look through all the photos that you guys have sent in to us, and we've got some good ones this week. First one from Brian, and this is very artistic.
It looks absolutely stunning, where, I mean, I'm quite impressed with what he's managed. I'd love to know his routine for getting the picture.
Yeah, basically jumping over the well, it looks like he's going to stand on the camera.
I know.
Running in his on cloud flows. And this is in Kisa, I think I've said that right, in Valmalenko. And he's training hard for Ironman 70.3.
And then next up, we've got a very cool picture of Aaron's Canyon Speedmax sitting ready to go in transition. I like this because, Aaron, you've got your wetsuit swim cap on top of your saddle, which is something I never had seen at all in transition until fairly recently when we were at Oceanside, and that was in our roundup of the tech in the transition area, wasn't it?
Yeah, really cool. Also, a new bottle that I've not seen before, an X-Lab Hydro Blade, which goes between the aero bars. But very nice, very nice.
Very neatly set up with his bike shoes and running shoes and everything ready to go, isn't it?
Yeah, now moving on, we've got Jonathan here sent in a very inspirational photo as he comes across the line in his first 70.3 Monterrey, Mexico. And yeah, 6 hours 30:01 was his official finish time, and he had a goal of going sub 7. So
smashed it.
Yeah, fantastic.
I heard that was a really good race, Monterrey, actually, so hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, well done, Jonathan. Next one. Now, I put this one in for you, Fraser, because I know you...
I do have a soft spot for a Trek Speed concept, yeah, and what a stunning
Did
picture.
race on them for many years.
Yeah, no, and that's another cracking example of the speed concept. Lovely colours there on Lindsay's Trek Speed concept, rather. Morganton, Georgia, is that right? Yeah,
I guess so.
Yeah, Georgia, yeah, definitely. And she's on a vacation adventure in the mountains, so looks stunning.
Very nice. Another absolutely stunning one sent in by Tommy. Another canyon. This is the Aero Disc, and this is in the French Alps as he's training for the 70.3 World Champs, which is obviously going to be out in Nice. So he's been checking the course out maybe, or at least just getting some miles in the hills with a group of friends who share the same love of triathlon.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any canals like that near the Nice mountains, but either way, that's still stunning, and it makes us want to go and get on our bikes.
That is a kind of photo that says, ride your bike.
Yeah, absolutely.
Finally, a very different photo sent in by John from Morrison in Colorado, and he's saying, just returned from my morning run.
Imagine getting that much snow in May.
Yeah.
Got to be high up. Well, I guess Colorado in the mountains.
Yeah, well, cracking photos there, guys, and please do keep sending them in using our photo uploader.
Okay, now for our race news, and first up is Ironman Brazil. And on the men's side, we had a trio of very experienced athletes in Andy Potts from the US, Will Clark from the UK, and home favourite Igor Amarelli from Brazil. Now they all swam together, rode the first 140 Ks of the bike together, but then it was Andy Potts who put in a superb surge to take a near 4-minute advantage clear of the rest as he hit T2. Now Potts ran very steady throughout the marathon. Amarelli was eventually going to fade and then withdraw from the run. It was Will Clark who was able to hold pace with Potts but never make any real inroads. And it was actually fellow Brazilian to Igor Amarelli, Frank Silverstone, who ran through with an extremely fast race best even marathon of 2:47 to take himself to third place. Will Clark held that second place, and Andy Potts won in an extremely quick time of 8 hours and 3 minutes. Onto the women's side, and we had home favourite Pamela Oliveira forging a near 8-minute buffer over American Sarah Piampiano out of the water. And it wasn't until midway through the ride that the American was able to catch up to Oliveira. And in fact, by T2, she'd taken a 5-minute buffer, which ballooned to 23 minutes over the course of the marathon. And Piampiano won in an incredible time of 8 hours and 40 minutes. Pamela Oliveira held strong for second place, and her compatriot, Bruna Mann, came home in third. Now moving continents and coming over to Europe, we had Ironman Lanzarote, and what is definitely known as one of the most iconic and demanding Ironman races. Definitely one that we know about because we tried to break the course record on that course last year. But anyway, enough about us and on to the racing. On the men's side of things, we had Spanish athlete Emilio Munez coming in third, German athlete Christian Kamer coming second, and with a comfortable 5-minute buffer for the victory, we had 2013 Ironman world champion Fred van Leert. Now, in terms of the women's racing, we had Dutch athlete Lenny Ramsey running through with a race best marathon for third. Maja Nielsen from Denmark took second, and third place finisher from last year, British athlete Nikki Bartlett, took a very well deserved maiden Ironman victory on Lanzarote. Now then, staying in Europe but stepping down a distance, we had Ironman 70.3 Sam Polton in Austria, which has long attracted a strong pro field. Now then, on the men's race, we had very close run of affairs. Much through the bike, there was a close-knit group of about 5 athletes that were never separated by too much. But out onto the run, it was young Austrian Thomas Steger who pushed very hard, but unfortunately, well, for him, he was passed in the closing stages where German athlete Franz Losch was able to out-sprint him to take the win, with Thomas Steger holding on for that second and fellow Austrian Michael Weiss running through for third. Now onto the women's racing, and Swedish athlete Sarah Svesk had a poorer swim, but she managed to ride herself right back into the thick of things and then extend her lead on the other athletes into T2. She had a 90-second buffer on Austrian hometown athlete Bianca Sturer, but she wasn't able to bridge that gap. So it was the Swedish athlete Sarah Svesk who took the win at Ironman 70.3 St. Polten. Bianca Sturer from Austria was second, and German athlete Julia Gager came through for third. Now then, switching up events, this weekend we had Xterra Italy in Lake Garda. Now, on the men's side of racing, we had French athlete Arthur Farissiers taking his maiden Xterra victory. It wasn't his first victory of late because he did actually win the ITU Cross World Championships recently in Pontevedra in Spain. And he took this victory in Lake Garda from fellow countryman Arthur Serriers, and third place athlete was Italian athlete Filippo Rinaldi. Now then, onto the women's side of racing, and we also had a French victory there with Morgan Roux claiming her maiden victory of the 2019 season on the Xterra circuit. Second place going to Helena Urbanova from the Czech Republic. And the final step in the podium went to the current ITU Cross World Champion Eleonora Peroncini from Italy. Now then, it's that time of our show again for the Caption Competition. Now, our picture last week was, a little bit of a different one, a little bit of argy-bargy as they ran out of T2 at ITU World Cup in Italy, wasn't it?
They did, yeah. Definitely a bit of hustle and bustle going on there, and a great play on the Irish guy being in there. So William Stevens-Harris said, maybe I shouldn't have had that whiskey in T2.
And well done, William. You have spelt whiskey EY as opposed to Y, which is just a subtle difference between Scottish and Irish whiskies, but I am digressing. And then second we had Joel Stover, who said, that Porta-John is mine. Now, we don't call them Porta-Johns, do we? We call them Portaloos, maybe. But anyway, a bit of a race to get to the toilet, I guess, which is quite good.
But our winner comes from Yannick, said, I'll be taking that pot of gold, tiny Irish man. I was almost going to do that in an Irish accent, man.
I thought you were going to, yeah.
But yeah, great. You are the winner of the Caption Comp this week, so get in touch over Facebook and we'll send out the cap to you. But now, for this week's Caption Comp photo, it is of your old teammate, isn't it?
Yeah, I used to race the Payvag team, and Thomas is a brilliant athlete, Thomas Steger, so he has just about crossed the finish line at Ironman 70.3 Sam Polten just this last weekend, but he doesn't look too happy with his second place finish, does he?
It's not what you expect. I mean, it does obviously look like he's just won the race, and he's crossing the line distraught, but there is a bit of story behind this, right?
Yeah, he'd been in the lead, as far as I'm aware, for pretty much the whole bike ride and deep into the run, but I think the wheels fell off a little bit because he just pushed so hard and got past close to the finish, so I think he's a bit disappointed, but hopefully his dust has settled and he's realised it was still a great result.
And it makes a great photo for us guys, so please do leave your captions in the comment section below. Well, that's it for the show this week, and not to forget, we've also got some extra kit added to the GTN shop. We've got some great new technical run t-shirts, which are perfect for brick sessions, long runs, whatever you want, and they're available in both men's and women's sizes.
And not forgetting, we've also got these really brightly coloured caps in that shop now, so if you're getting into the open water now, the waters are starting to get warm enough to get out, and these are really good for being nice and seen and kept safe when you're out there, aren't they?
Yeah, both much awaited, so hopefully you all enjoy those. Also, you might have noticed that our friends over at GCN have, well, this last year they had a fantastic camp over in Mallorca, and they've actually got another one, or two, one in Avioraz in the French Alpine Resort, and also over in Austria in Sandbach.
Yeah, and they're going to be 4-day events where there's going to be presenters there, and there's going to be all sorts of on and off the bike riding and entertainment. There's going to be workshops they get stuck into. So if those are of interest to you, then have a look over to the website.
Yeah, which is gcnevents.com. Co. So yeah, do go check it out, and if you want, get involved because they are great fun.
And they'll be selling it pretty quick, I'm sure.
I'm sure they will be. Now, if you like today's show, please do hit that thumbs up button. If you'd like to see more from GTN, click on the globe and subscribe. And if you'd like to see a recent video Heather and myself did on fat burning and fat oxidation, then you can see that by clicking just down here.
And if you want to see another video that Mark and Heather did on how to run faster off the bike, well, you can find that one here.